Welcome. I'm Riley Karsh.
I'm Tova Kopan.
We are thrilled to bring you the We Go Boldly podcast.
Let's talk big burning questions, life changes, and maybe a bit of personal business.
Let's be bold and brave together. Are you ready?
I am. Here comes the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Go Boldly, the podcast. We are very excited to have you guys with us today. As everyone knows, it's my favorite day. It's interview day. I love interviews. I just really enjoy talking to people, getting other perspectives, and expanding my own thought process around, our topic for the season. So before we dive into all of that fun and goodness, I want to just, say hello to my co-host, my fantastical friend, Tova, and welcome her to the show and ask her, how are you doing today, Tova?
I knew that question was coming.
It comes every time.
Every time. And I was like, okay, are you ready? Are you ready to answer the question? How are you doing today? And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was not prepared. I'm still not prepared. I had a good walk today. So that felt good. I think I'm good. I am a week and a half back at work.
Yeah.
And I'm like adjusting.
Mm-hmm.
I still am having my Alexa device, which is unplugged right now because we're recording. But if it wasn't, it would have told me at noon to eat lunch.
Yeah.
And it would tell me every hour on the hour to eat lunch until I do, because I have not figured out how to eat and have meetings at the same time. So I guess that's how I'm doing.
Okay.
But I think I'm doing well. I just haven't really figured out how to do things and eat yet, but I will. I did it before.
It can happen.
Not particularly well before, but I did it before.
Yeah, but you can get there. It's okay.
I can get there.
I'm supporting you in this process.
I have food in the fridge, really good leftover food. So, I have the tools. Yep. And I'm excited today too.
Yeah. So as everyone knows, season 9 is all about how is your heart? I will tell you that lately mine is a little stressed. It's a little stressed. The world is not in a great place, and I'm finding that very stressful. It's very heavy. The season of the year is heavy for me. It's just a lot of heaviness. So just before we get into our interview, I just want to tell everyone what I'm going to do about that. So I've started meditating again. I'm going to do some grounding work. I'm going to get a Reiki session. And I'm also just talking about it, which helps me tremendously in dealing with my big feelings, right? Is just saying like, hey, this is not the best time of my life, right? Like I'm struggling a little bit and there's a lot of things going on that are very hard and heavy. And it's okay to feel that and to experience that. So that's how my heart is. Why don't we get into our interview, Tova? Do you want to introduce our amazing guest for the day?
Yes, I am super excited to introduce our amazing guest for the day. And I have to tell a little story. So first of all, our amazing guest, she's on the screen now if you're watching us on YouTube, which if you're not, why aren't you watching us on YouTube?
You should be.
Our amazing guest is Wendy Meadows. She is a best-selling author, a coach, a family law mediator. And my little story before I tell you all about the wonderful things about Wendy is she has met my dad. Wendy and I have not met in real life, but Wendy has met my dad. They met, I think, at a breakfast. Oddly enough, my dad was actually out for dinner at the restaurant that they met at last night. So it's like a whole big full circle moment. I don't know how one of them was talking. And I think my dad, because he's a big, listener and talking, and he was like, wait, you're a lawyer and a mom? You must know my daughter because she's a lawyer and a mom. It was one of those things. And she's like, actually, I do know your daughter because yes, I'm a lawyer and a mom. Anyway, one of these days I will meet Wendy in real life. But Wendy is quite a force of nature, which everybody is going to realize as this interview goes on. She is the best-selling author of Sparkle and Grit, a certified life coach, mostly to law moms, and like I said before, a family law mediator. Wendy practiced family law exclusively for 15 years. In that time, she became a partner, a managing partner in 10 years, and then went solo at 13. She did know that there was something more. and she applied some sparkle and grit into her own life and made a leap into becoming a certified life coach so that she could help her professional comrades beat that burnout and feel heard and find success in a way that feels good to them, which is so incredibly important. So today you are going to see, I think, what a lot of us see who know Wendy, either those of us, those people who are lucky to have met her in real life, and those of us who are lucky enough, I don't know why I say real life, in person, and then those of us who are lucky enough to know her
This is not the real
online
life.
and we see her. So we are so excited to talk to Wendy. So with that being said, welcome, Wendy. How are you doing today?
Oh, goodness. See, I didn't know that question was coming. So
We didn't prepare you.
You did not. And I say overall, when I take a couple steps back, well, but if I take a bird's eye view into like what's actually happening in the morning and the evenings in my home when the children are home, it's just a hard season. It is a really hard season that nobody prepared me for. And even though I wrote the book about sparkle and grit and overcoming burnout and overwhelm, like I still feel some overwhelm like daily, but just because of this season of life we're in. So that is where I am.
Yeah. People tend to assume when you work in this industry and you do things that wherein you are leading other people, that you don't experience the same things that you're talking about all the time. So we're gonna dive in with a really like difficult question, right out of the gate. Hopefully that's okay with you. But as you obviously already know, our whole season is talking about and diving into this conversation around how is your heart, and whether we're asking ourselves or we're asking other people that question, like how do we even get to the bottom, how do we figure out an answer to that? And so we're going to ask you today, how is your heart?
I feel like I want to start crying.
Yeah.
My heart has been on a journey these last couple months, again, especially starting the summer with the kiddos.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how, what, where, why, like we got to like where we got to. But during COVID, everything was amazing. My family got along so well. We were like the perfect COVID family. We had breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. We all got along. I think we were all scared in the same way. Like we bonded over that. And it was very copacetic, right? It was fantastic. And then this summer, I don't know what happened, but my kiddos, I have an 11 and 9-year-old, and it's just like the constant fighting. It was the constant fighting. And then it was just different. There is something going on with each kid, don't know what it is, but I'm seeing the trickle with each kid. And then it was all of that time and work we put into summer camp and making sure everything is perfect and everything is wonderful. And like we have the calendar, we have the invites, we have it on our Outlook, we have carpool, everything is lined up perfectly. And then a kid gets sick or a kid gets hurt, which is awful. But like, what do you feel terrible about? You're not thinking about your sick kid or your hurt kid. You're thinking about how the freak am I supposed to like figure this out now? And you get really angry at the world, because you put so much time and effort into that. And then the kid's just not getting along. And it's been better now that the school year has started, but it's still just, we're in this weird season. We're in a weird season that I can't say I'm in love with. Like I love one-to-one time with each kiddo, but when we're all together, it's not the same as it was. And I am mourning the time that they were little, which I never thought I would, but I'm mourning that time
right
now.
I think there's going to be aspects of every phase of life that I will miss, and aspects that I'll be like, ooh, I'm glad we're done with that. I don't, I think that's just a part of change, right? A natural part of growth. But I do think a lot of people can relate to that experience. My kids go through phases where they're fantastic together, and then phases where I'm like, I need to put you both in like separate parts of this house and never let you cross paths.
I feel like my kids go through those phases like multiple times in the same day.
I was just gonna say that for you.
Yeah.
Like it's all in one day for you.
It's all in one day for me. And it's interesting because one thing that does help is I hope I've empowered my kids to sort of call me out when I get frustrated. And I'm like, why can you not like it happened the other day. It happened on Sunday when we spent the whole day or almost the whole day at a soccer tournament for my youngest. And it's a soccer tournament that the older two have participated in, and their teams didn't get in this year, not because they like weren't good enough. It was just like they took 12 teams, and one kid's team was the 13th team to sign up, and none of the other teams dropped out. Like it just, just didn't work out. And they so we were there all day. And as we were driving, though, they were fighting, and they were fighting over like the A team and the B team. And it was just all this competitive nonsense. And I was just so sick of it. And I was like, can you guys just support each other? Like, what is this? And my 12-year-old was like, you're joking, right? And I was like, I just wish we would support each other. And he goes, we just spent 7 hours at a soccer tournament cheering on our 7-year-old brother. We cheered the whole time. And I was like, yes, you did. And I rescind that comment. and I'm glad that he felt comfortable calling me out. Like, I still wish they wouldn't fight all the time, but it's like, okay, yes, you did. And I didn't have siblings growing up, so I don't totally understand sometimes that dynamic.
Yeah.
And so I don't understand why you're just don't like, you clearly love each other and you would defend each other to the death. So like, why don't you just like, and also, by the way, whenever you take one out of the three of you, you say nice stuff about the other one all the time when they're not around. Like, so why can't you say that to their face? Like, I don't understand. Like, you literally, we drop one off at practice and they're like, he's going to do really great today. He's just so good. Like, or why don't they pitch him more? He's really good. He's going to be the best pitcher on the team. And when he's in the car, he's like, you don't deserve to be on the A team. Why would they put you on the A team? I'm like, my head is going to explode. But I do want to ask you, because we asked you, how are you? And we asked you, how is your heart? And because you're in this setting, you took both questions seriously. But if you were, at school pickup, right, and you were talking to someone and someone said, hey, how are you doing, Wendy? And someone said, how is your heart? How are those two questions different to you? Like, how does one sort of pierce you a little deeper than the other?
Right. Well, how are you doing? It's just such oh, I'm fine. Great. Thanks. How are you? And it's almost sometimes I don't even hear them say it anymore. I don't even like think of what I'm saying. We sort of do this automatic, just blah statement, unless you get me at a really amazing time or you get me at a time where I am so frazzled. I might say, I'm like, do you really want to know? Like, I will tell you. And then I will just go through the litany of all the annoying things that happened that morning. Right. If someone, I'm like, if you really want to know. And then, but the heart piece, I mean, there's something about it that just made me want to tear up almost as soon as you asked the question. So I think you gave me space to sit back for a moment and say, how is my heart? Like, if I have to drop down, I always talk about like dropping down from like the brain to the heart to like the stomach, like getting in there. Like, how do I actually feel? Since I'm so like, I do all my feeling here. It evoked an emotional response, I think, first, and then I had to actually think, okay, where are these emotions coming from? Like, why am I feeling this emotion? So I think I think that's why for me.
Yeah, I think it's such a great question to ask yourself. And I've sort of evolved into this thought process throughout our season. And that is like, if I wake up in the morning and I ask myself, okay, how's your heart today? I have that same sort of visceral response that you were just describing of like getting into my body and thinking about what the emotions are behind whatever I'm feeling and thinking that day. And I think it's, it's also great to ask other people. I think it's, it depends on the person. Some people might be like, excuse me. But other people, that you have a meaningful connection with, it can be a great conversation creator and space creator, like you just said. In addition to kind of thinking about how is your heart, we like to combine that conversation with thinking about joy. So what brings you joy, and how did you kind of figure that out? And what does joy mean to you? So I know it's 3 questions, but they're all sort of interconnected.
All right. What brings me joy? How did I figure it out? What that means to me? All right. What brings me joy? I'm going to give you the weirdest answer ever. And you're going to both look at me like I'm crazy. But like the number one thing that came to my brain was like, I love cardio. And I know I am like in the minority there. But like, I love cardio. I love a good workout. I love Sean T. Like, if I am doing a workout with him and he says something funny and I'm like sweating and like working so hard, I feel pure joy in that moment. Like, that is
love that.
easy, like the easy to like get. But like stepping back, like in a more serious, I think, answer to the question, pure joy would be really good conversations with other women or men, but with other people, and or having conversation and sharing a life experience, or letting that person be heard, and that person actually feels heard and like me too. So in terms of either I'm giving them the space to be heard for the first time, or I'm sharing a story and then now they feel less alone, that it fills my cup. So it's not like joy, like yay, like Shanti joy, but it's joy like I just feel complete when those things happen. I'm trying to remember step 2 and 3 of the question. How
You
did I
got
figure
most of
that
it.
out?
And
Okay.
yeah, how did you come to the understanding for you of what fills you up like that? Was it trial and
Got it.
error? Was this part of your family dynamic growing up? Like
Yeah.
how did you come to that
Right.
decision?
Not at all part of the family dynamic, like whatsoever. I mean, I'm also an only child, so I know, what it means too when you look at your sibling or your children. You're like, do you know how lucky you are that you have siblings? So it was more going from, like, and we talk about the book a little bit, but more going from bleak to technicolor. So if I rewind back into 2015, I was full-time family law attorney, litigator, and it was go, 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 discovery, trial, fight with opposing counsel, fight with my client, fight with everybody, fight maybe with my law partners. It was just in a constant state of fight. And I figured out a good way to flight. So my flight was, I found this like health and wellness business on accident. I didn't mean to find it. It just sort of found me. And I found myself every morning between like 5 and 7 in the morning, I was like Facebooking with other, usually moms, like all across the country, Facebooking with people, like running a group on Facebook, making people feel good, listening to their goals, listening to where they wanted to go, and like cheering them on. So then for like about the course of a year, I realized my whole vernacular changed, how I talked to my law clients changed, because every morning I was pouring into women for like an hour to 2 hours at a time. And by doing that, it just changed my outlook on life, and it changed who I was as an attorney as well. And I realized like, ooh, like this is what I need. Like this is what I want. And by seeing gray and blah to like, ooh, technicolor, and looking at the world as a sparklier place, like that's where things changed for me. And that's where I'm like, aha, that's it.
Yeah. How did people from your, I hate to say it this way, but like from your before life to your after experience, how did they react to that change in you? Because when you go to work all the time and then suddenly you're talking in a different way or you're reacting in a different way, people notice.
Oh yeah. So my clients loved it. So my client, or maybe even like brand new people, they loved it. They're like, oh my gosh, this is a whole new person speaking to me. Some of my best friends that I've had before are no longer best friends. We no longer talk. They, as I started to grow and find new things, that they thought that meant I was leaving them behind. I would have taken them arm in arm with me wherever I was going. They just didn't want a piece of it. And
Yeah.
that's okay. So some people had a hard time. My husband had a hard time at first. For the first year when I was like finding this like new way of life, he's like, what is going on? Like you're on your computer all the time. You're doing all this stuff. I don't even understand. And I just know it's going to lead to something bigger. You just have to trust me. And it took him a long time because he was not happy about it. I would say for like the first year, I was like in a different industry. And I don't know if it was how other people reacted to me too. I mean, that's sort of how other people reacted to me, but it was also, I could no longer be in the rooms I was in before comfortably. I can't say that right. With comfort.
Yeah. I understand.
Comfort.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, Tova, I'm hogging. Go.
No, well, so two things. One's a comment, one's a question. And maybe I have a feeling you and I might have, well, maybe, I don't know if we had the same question or not. So one comment is with the Shanti joy is, I mean, listen, it's endorphins, man. That's what you feel when you feel that joy. Like there's some science there. Like there's runner's high or Shanti, T25 high, whatever it's going to be. But so that's great stuff. And I know lots of people are like, yeah, but you're sweating and but no, like there's exercise, there's science backing you up there, which is awesome. But then I guess my question is, so, you stumbled upon this new world, this sort of brave new world. And there was something in you that was clearly telling you, despite the fact that you were potentially losing some friends and you were having to, so this is 8 years ago, which means you had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Yep. 18
And
month. Yeah. 18-month old and yep. 3.5.
yeah,
Yep.
okay. And your husband is not a big fan of what's going on. But there's something
Mhm.
inside of you going like, nope, this is the right thing. This is exactly what I need to be doing.
Yeah.
So was this the first time that you were listening to that really loud voice, or had you always listened to that voice? Like how did you know to listen to that voice? Um,
Yeah.
that's, I guess that's the question. Like, how did
Yeah.
you know that that was the voice
Yeah.
that you should be listening to?
That's really interesting. So whenever I have followed my gut instinct before this, it was usually to get me out of danger. Right. So for example, when I was a baby lawyer and my firm was the first iteration of the firm it was when I joined, and one of the partners basically threw me under the bus for something I didn't do. And I'm like, nope, like I'm not dealing with this. Like if he's after my integrity and my ethics, nope, that is the number one thing I need to have as an attorney. And something in my very little baby lawyer, Wendy, said, I am not working for him anymore. And I went to the other partner. I'm like, I'm happy to stay here, but I am no longer, I cannot work for him. Like I don't want to lose my law license. And I'm very proud of that little Wendy that said that, to protect herself. Same thing several years later when I said, okay, I'm having my first child. I'm going to be home on Mondays. They called them Mommy Mondays, and I'll work 4 days a week. And my law partner slash boss at the time said to me, oh, well, then that also means you'll take a 20% pay cut. I'm like, nope, we're not doing that. And I don't know what possessed me to like think on my feet that fast. But again, it was like protection. So usually my gut that I've trusted for so long, that's only steered me in the right way was for protection. And then there was like this magical thing, I guess, happened once my daughter was 18 months old. And that's what I usually tell people. Like once your youngest is 18 months old, that's when your brain is back in your head again and you can start thinking about like life,
Yeah.
And I wonder what the switch there was, because I think part of the switch was back then I finally had all the things I ever wanted, right? Like I had the nice house, I had the husband, I had the two children, I had the two dogs, I was a partner in the law firm. So all those things I worked so hard to get, but feeling blah. I think it was just time. It was just because I saw, and if I didn't change anything, it was just going to be like this for the rest of my life and very monotonous. And I guess maybe it was even to protect myself again from the monotony. So it's
It
probably
sounds
again
like
a
a
protection.
protecting voice again.
That's what I was going to say too. It's still a form of protection, right? It's not protection from danger or from necessarily or from like, somebody attacking you or like you were talking about before, your integrity or things like that. But it's still a form of protection if you're thinking about like, and this is actually our next one of our next questions is if you're thinking ahead, right? Like if you're looking at your life down the road, and this happened to me when I was being a lawyer. And I wasn't even a lawyer for nearly as long as you. And but I had one of those moments where I was like, if I imagine my life in 10 years, what's this going to look like? What's this going to be? And it was bleak. It was not happy. It was not positive. I was not happy. And so it is a form of protection to listen to that inner voice. And if it helps people actually listen, right, to that gut instinct, then I think that's a good thing if you think of it that way. But so just to get back to our question, like if you look ahead 10 years from now, how would you like to feel? Like not what do you want to have, not what successes do you want under your belt, but like what's the feeling that you hope to generate in your life by what you're doing and who you are?
Yeah. That I'm in the space where I'm supposed to be. Like I'm not itchy, I'm not stuck, I'm not saying what if. I'm like, I can breathe and this is 100% where I'm supposed to be. So then if that is what is happening, then I'm feeling confident, I'm feeling joy, like, and not just like, oh yeah, I'm happy, but like for real joy. Like I wake up, like I can't wait to get out of bed because I get to do my life, right? I get to do the thing that I have on tap that day. And I hope so in 10 years from now, my children will be in college maybe, or doing whatever they want to do after high school. Rested, maybe I hope to feel a little bit more rested,
Right.
but like connected too. I want to make sure that we're still connected. Like however I'm a parent from now until like they do leave the nest, that I have done what I need to do to make sure we still have a deep connection that lasts and that they actually want to come home and they want to vacation with us. So I think real true joy. connection, and just at peace.
Yeah. So we need to take a quick break, which we will do now. Sorry to like jump in there, Tova. I know you were up for questions. But we'll take a quick break, everyone. And when we come back, we will continue. We'll be right back. Hey, Tova, you know what I love?
Coffee, definitions, uninterrupted reading time.
Okay, all of those things are true, but I also love maps.
As in Siri, take me to the beach.
Yeah, also as in who am I really and who do I want to be?
Yeah, I figured that's what you meant, but I also have the beach on my mind. So,
Well, we were talking about things we love, so that definitely makes sense. But the map I was thinking about is our Defining You course.
yes, we put together defining you as a way to map where you are and how you want to live your life.
So true. So many people struggle to find their purpose in a busy and noisy world.
That's why we made Defining You, our course meant to guide you to creating your own mission statement.
And there's good news. You can get it now on teachable.com. Find the link on our website at goboldlyinitiative.com/courses, or check out the link on our Instagram bio at Go Boldly Together.
We can't wait to see you there. Now, let's head back to the show. Okay, welcome back from break. You have sort of answered this question 10 different ways, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You've talked about following your gut, and you've talked about how you made decisions, and you also talked about how you try to bring it sort of from your head to your heart. But when you are making a decision, and I don't know if it's like picking a camp for your kids or making a decision for your family, or even when you're figuring out how to, the tour for your book, and it's like, where do I go? What do I do? How do you make decisions? Is it following your head? Is it following your heart? Is it a combo of the two? Is your heart and your gut the same thing? Like, what do you do when you're trying to figure these things out?
I make decisions very quickly, and usually I don't think a whole lot about them. So if I make the decision, like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, I make the decision, I announce it to the world, so I have some accountability, and then I'm like, and then how do I make this happen? And then I reverse engineer it from there. I don't spend a lot of time like, what do I call it? Waffling. I'm trying to think my husband's the exact opposite. So I don't spend a lot of time waffling over a decision. If it feels good, I say, yep, okay, that's it. And then I start running that direction. And if I need to change course, that's fine. I change course, and I don't really think about the decision part too much. And there's times that's been really amazing for me. And I'm sure there's been times that has gotten me into trouble too. But usually it's a very quick, and I'd say from my gut, and my gut and heart are pretty much aligned there. So for me, they're one and the same more often than not.
Then I want to ask a follow-up, and this is something for like the people who are listening. What do you mean when you say if it feels good? Like, what does that feel like for you?
Like no resistance. For example, last summer I was listening to a podcast, and the host said, and I am hosting this event in Arizona, and you should come. And I said, yes, I should. And everything in my body was screaming, you have to go. You have to go. I didn't get like danger, or I don't know about this or anything. It was just like, you have to go. I came home. I said, hey, husband, I'm going to this event in Arizona. He knows now just to say, okay. It's like, okay, and it just felt good. And it felt good. And I went, and it turned out to do some like amazing, it turned into a lot of really amazing opportunities. If something doesn't feel great, I feel like, again, it almost feels like a stomach ache. It feels like a stomach ache, and my stomach is turning, and then it starts to like come up like through my esophagus, but like deep down in my, what I always forget, the sternum, like right behind the sternum. It just doesn't, it almost feels like I can't get a full breath. It doesn't feel, and it's not sitting right with me. And I might start to get like jittery and anxious, and I'm just like, okay, this is a no-go. This is not for me.
So have you always had this? feeling, like this mind body connection that you are so, I don't want to say hyper aware of, but aware of, whereas like I think a lot of people are not. And so I'm curious if that's something that you remember from like being a kid, this was how you did stuff, or if you developed it, like how do people get there?
I think I've always had it. I think and I think certain events have happened in my life to help me fine tune it
Mhm.
as I go along. But it's always been there. And then I'm very hyper aware as it is of myself. Like I know if I eat, like I learned very early, if I eat garlic and I have to mix it with cheese, I'm going to feel really sick. Right. So I'm very like, oh, when I smell something, oh, this is then going to do this to me. Like always the cause and the effect of things. But the more the woo, I'll call it, or the intuition, it's something I've definitely tapped more into, I would say, in the last several years, but it's always been there.
Interesting.
Well, I want to highlight
Always,
too,
yeah.
we ask people a lot, and I try to figure out like what does that feel like for you? Because I think some people, we've had people on the show who've talked about like they feel a tingling, like they feel it feels good. But I think for a lot of people, it feels like you feel, and it's similar for me, which is it's just the absence of bad. Like you're like, oh, this looks great. And then you're like, nope, no warning signs. Sounds good. All right, it's a go. Like,
Right.
no
Yeah.
alarm bells going off. It's a go.
I like that you
Right.
use the word resistance. I think that's a very helpful term for people to associate with this sort of process, right? Like if you feel any kind of mental, emotional, physical resistance to a decision that you've made, it's a flag, right? Like it may not be a red flag that says, no, you can't do this, but it's still something telling you, like, hey, pay attention, look at this.
You know what? I do know where I helped with it. It was like dating. It wasn't. I would know going on a first date with somebody, or even just meeting a guy. Like back when I was very boy crazy growing up, But I would know immediately. Nope. Like this isn't gonna work. Like I would know
Right.
in the first 5 minutes. And my first date with my husband, he was like, "So what are you thinking?" I said, "Well, I think, usually in the first 30 seconds, if it's a no or a maybe." And I'm like, "You're definitely not a no. I think we're in the maybe categories. Let's keep seeing where this is going." But I think that's where I started honing it when I was, dating more,
Yeah.
I guess pre-law school.
Right. I like that.
That was,
That's something relatable.
it's gonna
So
work.
for all of our listeners, like if you have been on that dating circuit, I hate to call it that, but I'm not sure what other word to use.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
think most of us have experienced that, right? Where you're like, oh no,
Yeah.
oh no, no.
Nope.
Um,
Like,
so it's
not
something to
gonna
keep in
work.
mind. Yeah. Something to keep in the back of your minds.
You mean we're
Um,
not supposed to wait to see how red the flag can get? Is that
yes. Yeah.
okay?
Like it
Well,
doesn't
we've
look
done
like
that
it's red.
too, right?
I
Like,
mean,
I think we've all done that as
oh,
well, right? Like,
100%.
you
100%.
I'll work
Um,
on that.
so in addition to all of these other things we've asked you, if you could change one thing about your life, like if there's one nagging thing going on for you, what would that be, and why, and how does that affect your heart?
Oh, like right this moment, like not a past event.
Yeah, like in your life today,
Mm.
is there something you want that you're
Mm.
actively working to change?
Actively working. If I could change see, so many of the things are outside of my control. Like if I could
Sure.
change one thing, it would be I'm having date night with my husband every week. Like that's like an easy, low hanging fruit.
Right.
And we keep trying, and then it keeps getting messed up for like a variety of reasons, right?
I can
But
relate.
like something I could change about myself is as a family law attorney, I knew how to structure my days and time, and I knew how to be a successful family law attorney. Like, okay, this is how much I need to bill, this is how I do it. And like getting clients wasn't hard as a family law attorney. It's just like, 50% or 51% of marriages end up in divorce that have people like landing in my lap. So it wasn't hard to figure out how to structure my day. Being this new person I am now, which is I wear 3 different hats, with like mediator, coach, and author, trying to structure my day and know what the mark of a good day was in terms it's not all income producing activity anymore, right? As attorneys, we trade time for money. Like literally, you can make money by typing away at your keyboard and having a timer running in your billing software. Like it's that easy to make money. And now is being an entrepreneur, it's not that easy to make money, and it's harder to find clients that you align with and that want to make the investment in you, and where you feel good about them, they feel good about you, and to know what a good day was. So again, so to answer your question, if I could change anything, I would love to have like a metric. If I know, okay, today was a good day and I was able to do the things that I needed to do today to feed my family and be like, give myself an A. I'm like, okay, I showed up fully. Because right now it's hard to figure that out. It's hard to say, okay, did I do everything I could have done today in the right way?
I think it's yeah, all of that I can very much relate to. And I think
Mhm.
that I think it's a great moment to use this question of how is your heart, right? Like if you wake up in the morning and you ask yourself, how is your heart? And then you're going to bed at night and you're going, okay, how's my heart? Have I done the things today that fill my heart with goodness, right? I'm going to use the word goodness
Yeah.
because it's not all
Okay.
going to be rainbows and sunshine. Um, but at the end of the day, when you sort of look for the harmony of it all, is it
Hmm.
better
Hmm.
or worse? And I think that's,
Yeah.
you know, I'm having like a moment right now because I've been searching for the same thing of how do I measure a day? I have so many different jobs I'm
Hmm.
doing. How do I measure the
Hmm.
day? And how do I feel good about each day? Right. Because I
Right.
don't want to feel bad about a day, right? I mean, we all have them, but
Hmm.
like I want the overarching experience to be positive. And I think this question helps for me anyway, and hopefully for our listeners and anyone else, helps clarify that a little bit and give some I give a metric of some sort. Because yeah, as attorneys, we're like, what's the spreadsheet say?
Well,
Exactly.
and I think
Exactly.
we can also approach life. This sounds harsh, but like rather than on A to F scale, more like a pass fail.
Mm,
And like I don't like fail as the option versus pass. And I don't like, I have a whole theory about failing that we've talked about a lot on the podcast. But I had talked to somebody a while back about like a friend's child who was very high functioning autistic, who went to one of the Ivies that has pass fail and isn't graded. I don't know if it's Brown or Dartmouth or one of those, but probably Dartmouth. Um, but they said, they love being at this school because it's pass fail. So like all that pressure is off. On the other hand,
Mm.
it's pass fail. So how do they know that they're the best? Like, how do they know that they're at the top of the class if it's pass fail?
Yeah.
And so I think that for a lot of us who have always been driven to get them, whether it's like the most billable hours or the top grades or like, I mean, there's are obviously real concerns with income producing, but assuming that you're paying
Right.
your bills, so the income is being produced because the bills are being paid. um if you are trying to figure out how to judge the day as a success, I think we need to change the scale, right? And so maybe it is saying, how is my heart, how am I feeling at the end of the day? But it also could just be like, how am I grading it? Maybe it is a pass fail, but we use a
Right.
different word other than fail because that's
right.
that's a sad word.
Well, and maybe it's getting us closer to that 10-year goal, right? Of like, I'm not going to do everything in one day. I'm not going to achieve everything in a single 24-hour period.
Mhm.
Obviously, we all know that. And knowing that and feeling that are wildly different things, just to be very
Right.
clear for everyone.
Right.
Um, but to know that, like, okay, in 10 years, I want to feel contentment. I want to feel joy. I want to feel like what I'm doing matters to people, whatever it is. Um,
Hmm.
if you know that every day you're working towards that, right? Like that's a success. You can judge that as a successful day. Um, but beyond that, what other things, I guess, do you do, Wendy, that help your heart? Like what other like do you do physical I
Yeah.
mean, I can tell you exercise based on our earlier conversation, which is awesome. Um,
Hmm.
but what kind of stuff do you do to support your health, your physical health, your mental health, your heart? What do
Hmm.
you do on it? Like what is a day for
What
you?
is a day? So, like, I have like two answers to your question. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to answer it. So I think what is a day to me, I'll give you my very brief morning routine. And then the most amazing thing I think I do in there that is very similar to the how is your heart question, sort of. So I wake up before the children, and that has to be number one. Like, we have got to wake up before our kids. If we don't wake up before the kids, we are running on defense all day. And right now, I'm usually going to bed before my children, at least before my son. So if I don't wake up before him, I have literally no time that was ever just mine and sacrosanct alone, right? So number one, wake up before the kids. Then I come downstairs, do my water, do my coffee, and I sit in a chair over there. And that is when I plug into, like, I do some reading, I journal, and lately I've been lighting incense, and I find a lot of joy in that. There's like, and now I'm like addicted to the smell in the morning. So I'm like, I want to smell like the smell of incense. And I think it just helps like ground me. And like, even if I just meditate by just like watching the waves of the incense smoke, for a couple of minutes, like, okay, that's good. I've done that. And it just brings me, the smell, I think, just brings me into a good spot. And then it's when I do my creative time, and then work out, and then I'm off for the day. But I think the most important question I ask in the journal is two things. Like, one, what is my big event of the day? So what is the biggest thing I have going on today? And it could be like this podcast, or it could be when I've turned off the spigot to litigation, but like if I was like in litigation mode, like just several months ago, I'll be like, it might be the cross-examination of this witness, or it might be my closing argument. Or it could be, if it's just like mostly a mom day, in my kids' soccer game, something. So what is going to require the most of me today, the big event? And then who do I want to be, and who do I want to show up as to the event? So if it's in trial, it's I'm unwavering, right? If I need that, get the evidence, then like I'm unwavering, like this is who I need to be. If it's being a parent, it's like I am present. If it's being with my husband on date night, I'm a loving wife. And whoever, like, think about who I want to show up as in that moment before I'm even there. For the podcast, I want to be like energetic and well-spoken, so like, who do I want to be? Think about who I want to be, visualize it. So then once I'm in the moment, once it comes, like, and sometimes if there's like that 2 seconds, like where you forget to be that person. Like, you're going to be the yelling mom, you're going to be flustered, you're going to be nagging, whatever. Like, nope. Remember, I said I was going to be this person. This is who I want to be. So you've already future planned it, like, okay. And then you can plug into it easier. And I think when we do that, I think that's the key to like so much of life. So we actually think about the moment before we're in it. We're super duper present when we're in it. And it feels good times two, because we've planned it and then we're there. So it's like the moment is deeper, like it has more texture to it almost. And that's my secret sauce.
I love it. I really do like that. I think that's great. We're going to take another.
Do you have that journal? Do you like sell that journal with those questions? Because I would like to buy it.
It's coming out.
Coming out.
Thank you. It is coming out. Oh my gosh. It's been such a process, but crossing my fingers, it's actually like for sale by Black Friday. Because like my goal is like, to make a nice Thanksgiving push. And,
because I'm like, if I'm waiting on write like a couple lines, like, this is my big event. Although immediately I'm like, but what if I have 3 soccer games and a baseball game? What is my big event on that day? Momming
in general.
Momming. Yeah.
We need to take a quick break. So we're going to do that. And when we come back, we'll ask a couple more questions, and we will get to our favorite, the quick response question. So we will be right back, everyone. In case you didn't already know, we love talking.
True story. More than simply talking, we love researching, prepping, and bringing this podcast to life.
We launched We Go Boldly with the goal of reaching people dealing with the kinds of questions and concerns that we also face.
Things like how to hear my inner voice, how to make sure my habits are worth it and stick, how do I feel my feelings and still manage to function.
After years of personal work and lots of trial and error, we realized we have a lot to share on these topics.
Now we've been broadcasting for over a year, and we are proud of our podcast.
And to no one's surprise, we still have a lot to say and talk about.
We sure do. We need your help to keep going. Every episode takes time and money to create, and we would love your support.
So, if you like what we are doing, please support us by joining our Patreon community and becoming a monthly subscriber.
Join our Patreon community today at patreon.com/wegoboldly. We are so grateful to all of our supporters. Now, back to the show.
Okay. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Before we took a break, you mentioned a journal coming out. I want to talk a little bit about your book, and sort of how, yeah, nice. How it's so pretty too. How did it come about for you to write this book? And I don't know, how is the process making your heart feel? Like what is the emotion that you have connected to it? Or emotions, say.
So like before we say, where do I want to be 10 years from now? And I want to feel, I can't remember the word I used, but I'll say right now it's like arrived. Like, so when I was on the book tour and out in California and I was speaking on a panel with the book coach I used, and he was like using those of us who have had success, you know, to help like talk to up and coming authors about the process. I just felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Like, I love helping these other authors. I love sharing my inspiration with them. I love being looked at as a writer. It just, everything was just like aligned. And for the first time in my life, I just felt, oh my gosh, this is where I'm supposed to be. Because even like as a lawyer, well, clearly, if I'm leaving the law, like that never, it felt good at times, but there was still this like, is this really it? This is the first time I've been in something. I'm like, yes, this is really it. Like this, I love this, and I could talk about it for days, and I just want to do it again and again. The book process, I really loved the book process, and I had a lot of success with it, but it was also listening to my gut. That Arizona trip I told you about that I just had to go on, I went, and it was this a really, really neat conference. And at the conference, I met a gentleman named Jake Kelfer. He was my book coach, and I met him, and I'm just like, there's something about him, and I need to work with him. When I met him, he was 29 years old. He's only 30 now. He's freaking amazing. And if you think I have a lot of energy, he's like me times 10, like lots and lots of energy.
Fantastic.
And his goal for is like getting people published, like best-selling authors on Amazon. And he made the process really easy and really fun because he had an amazing team that I got to work with. So that was all good. And I would say right now, I feel arrived. I know that sounds sort of like I'm in Hollywood and I got like the cast in the movie, but like it's the best word for how I feel.
Yeah, I remember very distinctly several moments in my lifetime, right, where I was doing something and the feeling attached to that act was so overwhelmingly yes that it is like arriving, right? It's arriving into yourself. It's arriving into who you fully authentically want to be. And that, I think, arrived is a great word to use to describe it. I think it's and it's such an amazing feeling, and it's something I personally like chase. I maybe I shouldn't use that word, maybe I shouldn't be chasing it, but the feeling that I get when, you know, like if we're doing a workshop and we're talking to people and I watch somebody have an aha moment, that feeling inside me is something like there's no drug around, there's no stimulus, there's nothing that could give me that same feeling. It's so fantastic and I love it. So anyway, sorry, I'm not about me, but I just got excited because I have that same experience. But so a couple more questions for you. And then, like I said, before we took our last break, we want to ask you our quick response questions. I know we're getting towards the end of our allotted time, but you mentioned woo earlier, and I'm curious to hear how that and spirituality in general come into play in you, kind of in your whole I'm going to call it a transformation, your transformative process that you've been going through.
I'm a baby in my spiritual journey, I would say. You know, I was raised very Christian, like Lutheran, and like that's how I was raised, you know. And just a year ago is when I really started delving into like more of like a spiritual world kind of woo thing, and intuition and human design and all this stuff. And I'm like, there's something out here for this. And I just keep following the breadcrumbs, and it's what feels aligned with me. But now I have this strange thing. Like I see 1111 all the time. I don't know if you have like numbers. So every time I see 1111, I'm like, okay, I'm on the right path. cool, I'm on the right path, especially if I'm doing something or worried about something. Like, for example, yesterday, I was going to say something about my dad at some point. I don't remember what, but I wanted to send a text message to my dad, and I think he might be a little frustrated with me right now, but it was 11:11 when I thought about sending it. So I'm like, okay, yes, Wendy, you should send it, because it's like, that's my little sign from the universe saying, yep, yep. Like, if you're thinking about anything, it's time to go. So I say I'm still like a baby on my spiritual journey, because it's been like just the past year that I've totally reformed my outlook on life and why we're here, and like the Big Bang Theory and like all of that. I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah. I love the woo. I am like all in on the woo, but I grew up with a lot of woo. So I think, Tova, did you want to ask a question? I keep interrupting when you're about to ask something.
Well, no, I was just going to ask how, I had a question. We often ask how, a lot of this affects how you would, as you look back to your childhood, how this would affect, what you might tell your younger self about caring for your heart. And I do want to ask that, but I also want to ask how this affects what you tell your kids about them caring for their heart, especially right now that I feel like they're in a time of transition. I'm not going to say struggle, but I'm going to say transition, because we know they're going to get through the other side of something else. We just don't know when that is. And I can't give any advice, because my oldest is a 12-year-old. So I'm in the weeds as well.
We're in the same boat.
We're all in it.
We're all in it, in that weird age. My son yesterday was so upset or talking about how like some of the boys have sweatshirts with their names on the back. And now that they're dating girls, I put that in quotes for, all the people who are listening to the podcast. And like they're girls who are wearing the sweatshirts now with the boys' names on the back. And he's like, it's really uncomfortable. And it seems really like he didn't use the word exclusionary, but that's what he meant. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, it is. I was like, that's what it is. And welcome to, your teens.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I can validate your feelings, but
right.
But like, what else do you say about it? Right.
Yeah. So my question is like both, what would you like to tell your younger self that was, Lutheran and lived as a single child? And then what do you want to impart to your children about caring for their heart?
It's such a good question. And actually the first book I started writing, but I put on pause, is Letters to Little Wendy. So that's the book, and I need to in my brain, that's going to be my fourth book. I'm still figuring out book 2 and 3, but that it is exactly that. And it's basically, again, validating her fears, validating her feelings, but knowing she is so freaking strong. And like, she got herself through this. Like and like, to go back, like the message to myself is like, you are so much stronger than you think you are. Keep doing what you're doing. Like, you're more confident than you realize. And all this is shit that is happening. Like, and all these frustrations and all these people who are mean to you and all of the bullying and the name calling, whatever it might be, like, it's there for a reason. And it's there. So when you deal with adversity, sorry. When you deal with adversity in a later point in life, you're just ready. Like, you're just ready because you've done it. What I wasn't expecting, however, and this is more recent, is I wasn't expecting to relive all of that shit that I thought I got over. And I did get over and heal in some ways. I wasn't expecting to relive it through watching my kids go through it. Like, I just wasn't prepared. And I was not prepared to take on their emotions as my own, to the point, like, and then again, I'm still learning, right? But my daughter, she's 9, and she just had a big friendship breakup, like, and it very devastated. And I think I was more we were both equally devastated. And at one point she's like, hey mom, this is happening to me. This isn't happening to you. And I'm like, you're right. I'm like, yep, you're right. Because like, I think I was having too many feelings about it. So I'm learning too how to not hide my feelings from my kids, but to make sure I am not projecting my feelings onto them, which I'm learning, and how not to go into my own spiral, because it's been a really long time since I've been in a spiral in a friendship way. And it happened with like her thing. And it caught me by surprise. So what I teach in terms of what I'm teach them, it's what I wish I could teach them. And this, I think, is the hardest part, is we have now know what a self-limiting belief is, right? And we know how bullshit it is, even though, and like, we can know it and feel it are two different ways. Agree. Like, sometimes I know it and I still have a hard time with the feelings because we get stuck in the feelings. But to try and teach that to our kids, this is a self-limiting belief, this, and like walk them through the steps and walk them why it isn't actually true and they are actually really amazing, and watching them deal with that and see what is going to start being their building blocks of self-limiting beliefs. Like, that's the hardest. Like, that is the hardest thing to watch. So just to have the vocabulary with them now, and to do your best, or I try to do my best to help them overcome that faster, even knowing that they're going to have to go through it too, because it's a way of life, right?
Yeah. Figuring out how to set boundaries with your kids, between your own life experiences and what's actually happening around them it's something I did not anticipate how hard it might be.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think a lot of us can relate to that sort of, like watching my daughter's almost 11, and watching her go through middle school is bringing up a lot of things that I thought I had dealt with, where I'm like, wait a minute, why am I upset about this? This is crazy.
I know.
But it's also fantastic when they come to you in ways that maybe you wouldn't have gone to your own parents, or they have conversations with you, and it's just stuff you wouldn't, like, connections I would never have even made at that age, right? Like, ideas that I didn't have access to. And so I take a lot of hope out of that, and a lot of like personal feelings of accomplishment from that experience. Like, okay, I am doing something right here.
Agreed.
Yeah. So I think it's fantastic and it's awful all at the same time, like so much of life, right? But I know we have to wrap up. So I want to dive into our quick response questions, Tova, unless you had something else you wanted to throw in there. But I think that's one of my favorite questions that she just asked you. But we will ask you 5 questions, and this is a way for people to kind of get to know you a little bit better, a little more fun, lighthearted, I guess. I don't know. I think it's all fun. A little more lighthearted questions. So first, you already answered this. We're going to ask you anyway.
And these just the rules. There are no
follow-up I'm sorry.
questions.
I forgot about the rules.
So she can't ask you follow-up questions.
I can't ask you follow-up.
Okay. All right. That's hard, right?
It's nearly impossible for me. I always have questions. All right. First, what do you do when you first get up in the morning?
I look at my stats on my Aura ring.
Oh.
It's my sleep ring, which is this Aura ring tracks my sleep. So I want to see, how I slept the night before.
I like it. Okay. 2, what is your favorite movie?
I love the Back to the Future trilogy.
Oh my goodness.
It makes me so happy.
It does. So good. It's weirdly like the 3rd time I've heard of Back to the Future in the last 2 days. I don't know why it keeps coming up. Number 3, what is on your nightstand?
Oh my goodness. Like a stack of books, like that's 2 feet tall that I need to read. The 2 books I can think of that are on there are Beartown, the 3rd Beartown book. So the one that's like, 5 inches, like a Harry Potter sized novel. And then the other one's Breathe by James Nestor, which is really interesting. And I'm sure there's a million others. Oh, the 14 conversations you need to have with your kid before they're 14. That's on there. I'm like, oh shoot, my kid's almost 14 in like 2 years. I should probably start reading this one.
Get to it.
A bunch of books, my phone, even though I only use my phone as my alarm clock, and a pen, because if I'm reading, I need to be annotating as well.
Yeah. Yep. Such a lawyer thing. I love it. All right. Number 4, who is at the top of your musical playlist right now?
I love Olivia Rodrigo. I'm obsessed with her.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that.
I got tickets to see her in Philly this summer, so I'm super, super psyched. I'm way more excited for her. I mean, I like Taylor Swift, but like I love Olivia Rodrigo. So he's who we needed in our 20s.
Oh, yeah. There are so many people now that I would say that about. Number 5, what is the best piece of advice you've received, and who gave it to you?
So when I was making the really hard decision to leave my firm, which was it was probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make.
Mm-hmm.
And I was speaking with a life coach at the time. And she's like, well, Wendy, why aren't you gone? Like it's time. And I was like, the guilt. She's like, what do you mean the guilt? I'm like, they're my family. Like they're my work family. Like I can't bear the guilt of leaving. So I felt terrible. I mean, it kept me there for like a really long time. And she says, Wendy, guilt will not feed your soul. Guilt will not feed your family. Like it is time. It is. And that was in June of 2018. And I told my partners mid-July of 2018 I was leaving, and my first day of solo was I think August 13th. So hearing those words, just 60 days later, I was like a whole new person.
That's amazing. Fantastic advice. And I'm glad you were able to receive that and then share it with our listeners as well. Before we go, I want to make sure everyone knows how they can find your book, how they can find you, what's coming up for you. So can you share a little bit with us about that?
Yeah. So my book is on Amazon. It's called Sparkle and Grit. But if anyone goes to sparkleandgrit.com, they will see a link to my book there. As soon as my journal is out and published, which will hopefully be next month, the link to the journal will be there as well. Obviously, I offer coaching. I'm doing group coaching with Sparkle and Grit. That's starting soon, the one-on-one coaching. But I'd say if they go to the Sparkle and Grit webpage, that is the best place to find me and everything that I offer.
Excellent. Okay. Well, we will definitely put that in the show notes for you all and share it on our social so you guys can find it. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know we went a little long. I'm sorry about that. I feel like we could just keep asking you questions. I could always ask questions. But we love having you with us, and we really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And it's just been a lot of fun to talk to you. With that,
thank you for coming. Very exciting.
Thanks. It's been a lot of fun. It's just nice to have good conversations with good people,
Yes, it is. It's
a great hour of my day.
Uplifting, right? All right. Well, with that, everyone, we will be back next week with another episode for season 9. Until then, maybe give yourself the opportunity to ask, how is my heart, when you wake up in the morning, and see how it goes. Otherwise, we will be back next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much for listening to We Go Boldly podcast. We know you're busy and we love spending time with you.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, let us know. Head to Apple Podcasts right now to rate and review our show. While you're there, be sure to click that subscribe button.
Want more us time? Follow us on all the socials at Go Boldly Together.
Want even more us time? As in all the coaching pizzazz. Find us at goboldlyinitiative.com for all the info.
We will be back with more excitement, research, and deep thoughts next week.
Until then, keep on being the bold, brave, amazing people we know you already are.